Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. We're about to begin with some opening festivities. And welcome to our big event today, which is the biggest ever. In fact, this is the biggest crowd ever. And that's not an alternative truth. That's the truth. Biggest crowd ever for an event like this. We want to welcome you to the Massachusetts Broadcasting Hall of Fame Luncheon, in which many great inductees will be awarded their honor today. I'm Jordan Rich, happy to be back as your MC, and we're going to have a fabulous, fabulous time. So again, just find your seats as I begin. We have a lot of wonderful people here to support the honorees that you'll meet. We also have a very important person down to my left, Jim Boyd, a Hall of Fame member from Channel 5. Would you stand up, Jim? Jim is our official timekeeper. He's working on a movie called Equalizer 2 with Denzel Washington, so he knows how to fight, kick, punch. So those of you coming up here making extra long speeches, look out, don't mess around with Jim. That's for you, Harry. All right. Our overall sponsor, and any broadcast event has to have one, once again, is the Subaru Dealers of New England. And we want to sincerely thank Ernie Bach Jr. Is Ernie here? I'm not sure if he's actually here in the room. I guess not. But we want to thank Ernie Bach Jr. for his continued support and the Subaru Dealers' generosity. And in true broadcast industry fashion, we're going to now cue up the Subaru Dealers video for you right now.
You're just what I needed, 'cause I know I can do anything with you.
Introducing the totally redesigned 2018 Subaru Crosstrek. With symmetrical all-wheel drive and a powerful boxer engine, the all-new Crosstrek is up for any adventure. Hey, it's a big world, so go out there and have some fun. The all-new Subaru Crosstrek, limitless exploration, starting at just $21,795.
You're just what I needed, 'cause I know I can do anything with you.
So how about a hand for Subaru and Ernie Bach? That was very nice. Thank you. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce a wonderful gentleman who has taken over the reins as president of the Broadcast Hall of Fame. He's someone that many of you know from the broadcasting world, but I can tell you that he's one of our favorite people and a terrific leader. Please welcome our president of the board of directors, Peter Brown.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much. Glad to see you all here today wearing your best and brightest smiles. This is a distinguished group of honorees we present to you today. They come from all walks of broadcasting. Our group today will join 142 other inductees into the Hall of Fame. Several of those past members are with us today, and I would ask them to please stand now and be recognized, and let us show them our appreciation for all they have done for broadcasting. Past inductees, please stand. To each of you in the Hall of Fame, you have been the leaders, the mentors. We hope, yes, we hope the lessons you have learned and shared over the years with the next generation of broadcasters will continue to support and shape the roadmap for the future. Because we know your collective wealth of wisdom speaks to the absolute highest in quality, integrity, and credibility in information and entertainment. Whether it is broadcasting, narrowcasting, podcasting, it's about communications. And communications, as we all know, is the glue that binds us together as a community, as a country, and a world. To all the past inductees, thank you for being here today. Your presence makes this event all that much more special. I would also like to recognize another group. These women and men are members of our Hall of Fame Board of Directors. Their names you can find in the program book. And in this group, I would also like to recognize our past Hall of Fame President, Don Kelly, who I believe is here today. I would ask this group to please stand and let us please show them our appreciation. Thank you to all of our directors. Your hours of volunteer work on behalf of the Hall of Fame and its mission are truly and greatly appreciated. So we're often asked, how does the board select individuals for induction into the Hall of Fame? And here's the answer. Recommendations can be made at any time during the year. Our website at massbroadcastershof.org, that's massbroadcastershof for Hall of Fame.org, has a form that must be submitted and then it must be completed and then submitted. During the month of March each year, we announce a general call to the public for suggestions. And then a committee of our board meets to consider those names. You can recommend anyone you believe has made a significant contribution to broadcasting Massachusetts, past or present. The committee then recommends a slate of possible inductees to the board at our April meeting. And from that list, the selections are made by our full board. And that's how we come to today's ceremonies. Our note for our inductees, as I mentioned to you when we were snapping our pictures, you will be able to receive your plaque after the event. We invite you to pick up your plaque at the registration table where you signed in. Couple of more notes before we begin. First, in your program book, you'll find a thank you page to the supporters of our very successful 2017 Mass Broadcasters Celebrity Auction. And you'll also find a pitch for sponsors for 2018. Anyone interested, please let us know. Our 2017 auction could not have happened without the support of many of the organizations and individuals. Several of you are with us today. From the board, thank you very much. And as we transition to the next segment of our program, I want to take a moment to say thank you to Massasoit Community College. We would not be where we are today. We would not have a Hall of Fame today without the school's leadership and support, right from day one. In fact, this is where the Hall of Fame is actually located, at the Massasoit campus in Canton. We hope you get a chance to visit. Our first presentation will recognize a very special person who has been the extraordinary leader of Massasoit Community College and one of the founders of the Hall of Fame. It is my distinct honor to welcome Dr. Charles Wall to the podium. And as he makes his way up here, let me offer a few words about Dr. Wall. He has led Massasoit since 2001. And by the way, the college just celebrated its 50th anniversary. Dr. Wall has been the longest-serving president. I say has been because he recently retired. But I know his heart will not wander very far from the college, its students, and its community. What he has accomplished, he would tell you what the entire Massasoit community has accomplished, he's that kind of humble guy, is a pathway to a nurturing and rewarding education for all its students. We all know it takes a strong dedication and a deep commitment to lead an institution. And Dr. Wall has added a passion and compassion to his personal mission to advance the standard of excellence at Massasoit. Dr. Wall, as we look out at this audience today, I like to describe this as a George Bailey moment. You may recall the character Jimmy Stewart played in the movie It's a Wonderful Life. And the angel Clarence would say to you, Charlie, this event today would not exist if not for you and our other founders. You collectively made this happen. And what a gift it is to the Massachusetts broadcasting community. We extend our deepest gratitude, and I share with you these words. In recognition and appreciation of Dr. Charles Wall on his retirement as president of Massasoit Community College, for his extraordinary contribution as a founding member of the Massachusetts Broadcasters Hall of Fame, for his 40-year commitment to higher education, for his support for students in the fields of media and broadcasting. His dedication to honoring the history of broadcasting is evidenced by his commitment to establishing the Massachusetts Broadcasters Hall of Fame at Massasoit Community College. Dr. Wall, we present this to you today, and please, let's show our appreciation.
Wow. It's been a real pleasure. Or to quote Theodore Roosevelt, I'm simply delighted, or delighted. This has been very meaningful for all of us at Massasoit to be part of the Broadcasters Hall of Fame since 2007. It's been quite a journey, a wonderful journey as I look around the room and I see inductees from today and members from the past. But it's been very meaningful on a lot of levels because broadcasting, as people in this room know even more intimately than I, has been the way we've conveyed our shared information, our shared values throughout Massachusetts and beyond. And it's just to do this, to celebrate broadcasting like this, the broadcasters and the people behind the scenes, is just simply, I'm going to use the word again, meaningful. For me as a historian, very briefly, and given my life cycle position, I'm not going to say age, but my position in the life cycle, I remember those folks that we inducted in 2007 from my youth. Rex Traylor, Don Kent, and many others. If I started naming everyone, it would be too long. So this is great. Let's keep it up. I'm really pleased that Massasoit Community College and our team over here and beyond are involved in this, our students. I'm very pleased, Peter, that we're hosting the wall at the Canton campus of Massasoit. And everybody, keep up the good work, and thank you very much. Thank you.
Gosh, it's very quiet in here. You can eat. It's okay. Don't worry. In fact, enjoy yourselves. This is a huge, huge turnout. One of the main reasons is because Dan Ray invited everyone from his communion on up. There are more people at Dan Ray's 2 tables than were at my bar mitzvah. Never seen anything like this. But I know Danny and I love him. We're now going to begin the process of introducing to you with videos our honorees, and then we'll call up those to actually make the personal introduction. And to begin, we're very happy to highlight our Pioneer Award winner. Sadly, he could not be with us here today. But please, if you would, pay attention to the video as we have a glimpse into the life and accomplishments of the late Tom Martin.
Tom Martin was indeed a pioneer in our industry. In 1982, Tom founded Kramer, now powered by a team of 150 people producing events and marketing campaigns for global brands. A member of the 1964 U.S. Olympic hockey team, Tom served as executive producer for 4 New England Emmy Award winners. Golf was another of Tom's passions, and the story of golf enjoyed the unprecedented feat of being broadcast on 3 national networks. Those who knew him best will say that if you put together a composite of the best qualities of all the people you know, that person would be Tom "Red" Martin.
And now let me introduce 2010 Mass Broadcasters Hall of Fame inductee, the former longtime president and general manager of WCVB Channel 5, Jim Coppersmith, who will say a few words about our 2017 Pioneer Award winner and Hall of Fame inductee.
I've got a little cheat sheet here. Good afternoon, everyone. It's such an honor for me to be part of the enshrinement of Tom "Red" Martin, one of my closest friends. When it comes to the American dream, Tom Martin checked off all the boxes. He was born into modest circumstances, you might even say poverty, but his destiny was to rise above that in a magnificent way. Tom worked hard, he studied hard, he sold papers to contribute to the well-being and the support of his family. As we all know, he was a great athlete as well as a great American. He was an All-American hockey player at Boston College, and he was co-captain of the 1964 United States Olympic team, as well as having played on many international teams. He was also a standout baseball player at BC, and oh, how he loved that institution, and it loved him back. Along the way, Tom married the girl of his dreams, and they had 7 wonderful children, 6 of whom work at Kramer today. The 7th works elsewhere, but still sticks his nose in and serves on the board. What can I tell you about Tom? I mean, he was just not only a good man, he was the best man I ever knew. And to paraphrase Jack Nicholson, he made me want to be a better man. So today, I can tell you that I'll miss him with all my heart, but it's altogether fitting and appropriate that he be entered into this Hall of Fame with its Pioneer Award, and it is my great and indelible honor to preside over that enshrinement. And to accept the award is his youngest son, my former caddy, Patrick Martin.
Thank you, Jim, for those very kind words. Tom was extremely grateful for all 30 years that this legend served on the board at Kramer. But it was always your quick wit that he cherished most, Jim. As I reflect back on my father's business career, there are 3 stories that stand out. And each one highlight a special quality of what it takes to be a pioneer. A good head, a good heart, and a little bit of good luck. Tom started working at Kramer in 1966, and he quickly worked his way up to the head of sales. At that time, Kramer Electronics sold video equipment. They sold the cameras, the lights, the audio stuff. But later in the 70s, that business was changing, and it was becoming very commoditized. But Tom saw the market was changing and took action. And at the age of 40, with a mortgage, a wife, 6 kids, and 1 on the way, he took a chance. And he risked everything he had and a little bit of what my grandparents had to buy the struggling business unit and subsequently change hundreds of people's lives forever. Tom had the vision to change the model. Instead of selling the physical equipment, he hired the creative and talented people that knew how to use it and sold the service of creating video. Today, Kramer operates out of a 70,000 square foot creative studio in Norwood. We're home to 150 of the best creative experiential marketers in the business. And we do it with the same roll up your sleeves, get it done attitude that Tom pioneered almost 40 years ago. The second quality of a true pioneer is a good heart. It was 2008, the start of the financial crisis. The economy was bad, projects were getting canceled, budgets were slashed, and we were overstaffed. I can't imagine how challenging of a time this must have been. And while the executive team debated just how big of a layoff we were going to have, Tom saw it differently. Tom was focused on how many jobs he could save, not cut. And ultimately, he made the decision that there would be no layoff at all. We would share the burden with a 20% furlough and ride this out together. Although it was a difficult decision, it was a brilliant move that saved so many jobs. A couple years later, things were looking up. The good times were back. We were talking about year-end bonuses, and it was going to be good. Everyone had forgotten about the pains of 2008. Not Tom Martin. Tom never forgot the sacrifice that the Kramer people made to save the business. And at that moment, without any discussion at all, he made the decision that every penny of unpaid salary would be paid back before one bonus was distributed. Pretty amazing. The last story is my favorite and shows how a little bit of good luck can go a long way. Sometime in the mid-90s, when Kramer was based out of a rental office park in Braintree, my father was working on a holiday. There was no one else in the office, and the phone rang. It was a gentleman looking to discuss a possible project. The man went on to explain that he had a product and he needed help creating an instructional audio tape to help explain how to use it, the Bowmaster, not to be confused with the Bowflex. The Bowmaster was this small device that you used ribbon and wire to make bows. My mother being a arts and crafts lady, he saw the potential. And so he said to the man, he said, there's no way that you can create audio and be able to tell people how to use this thing. You need to create a video. And So he said to the man, have you thought about video to, for this instructional tape? And the guy said, I can't afford a video. So, Tom paused for a minute and then made the man a deal. And he said, listen, I have no idea how many of these you're going to sell, but here's what I can do. I'll make the video, and every time you sell one, you pay me $1. Sure enough, they make the deal. Steve Johnson makes the video, and the product gets picked up on the popular QVC channel, and there are orders come rushing in, and about 500,000 Bowmasters later, Tom has the money needed to move out of the rental park and into the building that Kramer's in today. So those 3 stories exemplify what Tom demonstrated as a pioneer. A man with a good head, a good heart, and a little bit of good luck. It is with great humility, on behalf of the entire Martin and Kramer family, that I sincerely thank the Massachusetts Broadcasters Association for this great honor from my dad. Thank you.
Congratulations. And to those of you at Kramer, I've got this thing called Buns of Steel that I'm trying to market. More on that later. To get serious for just a moment, before we roll through and present the rest of the inductees, we want to take a moment to remember 3 other Hall of Famers who sadly passed away during the last 12 months. 2012 inductees Joe Ryan and Dick Albert, and 2014 inductee Leo Baranek. I think we all remember these people fondly. Many of us worked with them, but we wish them peace wherever they are, and we know that their impact is still being felt. So thank you for remembering those 3 valiant members. How is the food coming? Are you eating salads still? What's going on? I need to know. I could ask Billy Costa, because he's got a secret camera filming all the food that's he's for his show, Okay, you're doing well. Just keep eating and keep serving, right? Okay. We're now about to begin with our series of inductees. Now, the first video you're about to see will feature someone who's trying desperately to look like Shelby Scott. Ladies and gentlemen, Byron Barnett. Roll it. Watch this.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Urban Update. I'm Byron Barnett.
Yeah, this wind, I tell you, it's snowing, but the wind is the story here. And this wind has just relentless. It has not let up at all.
Well, for Hillary Clinton, this is the moment of truth. After getting all those big endorsements from those political heavyweights, Hillary Clinton is now on her own as she gets ready to deliver the biggest speech of her life.
The Massachusetts politicians wound their way through the streets of Back Bay with thousands of demonstrators following behind.
And nice parka. Here to present our honoree is a colleague and an Emmy Award-winning broadcaster in his own right, Jonathan Hall. Jonathan?
Well, it is an absolute honor to stand up here for Byron once again. It is a return engagement for me, as he was inducted into the Golden Circle of the National Association of Television Arts and Sciences, and I was honored to do that gig as well. I'm looking for fees, I think, here, Byron. One more, I think I'm gonna get a quick fee out of it. Byron has been wondering who nominated him. That was not myself. I have been too busy nominating myself every month, and it has been exhausting. Peter Brown, have you changed your email address? Because they're all coming back to me. I just want to tell you what a great journalist Byron Barnett is, but more important than that, what a great person. We are all on this earth for such a short time, and I think we're going to be remembered not whether we beat Channel 4 or 5 or NBC Boston or 25 to the, the pig roast in Mendon or whatever it is that we're covering, but what matters is how you treat people in the field. And I see Byron as a person who can really sense other people's loss. Often we see people on their absolute worst day, and Byron Barnett's the kind of guy that is a people person that can connect. And so I think that's one of the most important things I think about when I think of Byron. Also his work on Urban Update and just general assignment reporting. That is the gig that is so important to our business. It's the bread and butter of television news. You come in the morning, you don't know whether you're going to be in the governor's office or whether you're going to be literally in one of Boston's toughest neighborhoods trying to figure out a story. You have to be an investigator. You have to be a psychiatrist a little bit. I mean, you have to be a presenter and a movie maker, and Byron Barnett does it all so well. So I'm going to kind of wrap up here with the top 10 reasons I am honored to be here introducing Byron Barnett as an inductee into the Massachusetts Broadcasters Hall of Fame. This is where the drum roll would go if we had one. We do not. Number 10, born in Vikings country, Byron morphed into a Patriots fan who's not afraid to ask Belichick the tough question. Number 9, he's a network quality guy who's been a top performer for 7 News for 30 years, and Boston's gain is the country's loss. Number 8, he is 30 years of experience, this Emmy Award winner who interviewed Muhammad Ali, Rosa Parks, and 3 U.S. presidents, makes me feel like a fresh-faced cub reporter. And that feels good, Byron, at my age. Number 7, he's always there for his fellow employees as a SAG-AFTRA shop steward, and Byron showed me the ropes as I worked alongside him for so many years, over 10 years. And I appreciate that, Byron, all the calls you take late at night, and working with our management at Channel 7, who is here. And by the way, we all get along very well. That's a good place to work. We love it. Number 6, Byron's one of the nicest guys in the business, and his cheerful smile and great people skills translate into trust and great reporting. Number 5, his thoughtfulness, his thoroughness, his integrity as a television news reporter is a huge plus for him and for us. Number 4, if any well-known member of the media should pass away, Byron Barnett will be at the funeral and or wake, often both. Number 3, this man exudes class. Number 2, his empathy for interview subjects is absolutely amazing. And number 1, no one is more deserving than Byron to be a Hall of Famer. So I introduce to you Byron Barnett.
Wow. Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone. I can't tell you what a thrill this is to be recognized by my peers for this great honor, and to be recognized in the company of such distinguished broadcasters. Dan Ray, Jerry Wemme, Diane Stern, so many others. Special thank you to the Massachusetts Broadcasters Hall of Fame, and the committee members who nominated me and selected me. And I'd like to thank WHDH-TV, including my general manager, Paul Magnus, over at the table there, and my news director, Linda Mealy, and Carol, you too, of course. I'd like to thank you all for having enough faith in me to have such a long career, which I have truly loved. And of course, a big thanks to Jonathan Hall for that fabulous introduction. Jonathan is a special friend and colleague, and he's been a great partner as we worked together for so many years as shop stewards for SAG-AFTRA. And finally, a big thank you to my wonderful family over there. My beautiful wife, Kathleen. Couldn't have done it without you, Kath. My 3 children, 2 of whom are here, Byron and Parker and Kiki. And thanks for your understanding when I missed all of those number of sporting events and activities when I was out covering the news. And also, thanks to my mother, Ella, whose example and advice have guided me throughout my life, with, however, one exception. The time, I believe, when I was a teenager, Mom, when you suggested I go into pharmacy. Can you see me in one of those white coats counting pills? I don't think so. Mom, you're forgiven for that. Okay. Well, John's right, I've been around for a long time. I started right out of college at KSTP-TV in Minneapolis-St. Paul, and one of the most important lessons I learned took place right at the beginning of my career, and it's a lesson I carry with me today. I was a cub reporter covering a break-in at an animal hospital in Minneapolis, and some teenagers had broken in and they had stolen some drugs to get high with or something. And the police pointed out that they obviously were going straight for these drugs because they walked right past the safe where they keep all the drugs and, where they keep all the money and the checks. And I thought, oh, that sounds like a good stand-up to do. I'll put that in my story. So I tell everybody that these thieves missed the place where the safe where they keep all the money and the checks. Well, guess what happened the next night? Yes, it did. They came right back there and they stole the safe with all the money and the checks. So at 21 years old, I learned a big lesson that day. That lesson being that people are out there and they're listening, really listening to what you say. And I've never forgotten that, and I've always tried very hard, not only to always get it right, but to report stories in the proper context so as to avoid unintended consequences. Now, after working in my hometown of Minneapolis, I arrived here in Boston in 1983 during the big news wars that were started by the sale of Channel 7 to David Mugar and the Dudley Group. Since then, I have been blessed with what I feel has been a fantastic career, traveling to interesting places and watching history unfold before my eyes. I'm also thankful to Ed Anson, he's the owner of WHDH-TV, for allowing me to carry on the great tradition of Urban Update. That's the public affairs show that started out as Black News in the 1970s. Now, I follow and stand on the shoulders of a long list of hosts, including Lester Strong, Gary Armstrong, who is a Hall of Famer himself, Dolores Handy, Carmen Fields, Larry Sales, Maurice Lewis, and many others, including the late, great Lavelle Diet, another Hall of Famer. And I'm especially grateful to the people of Boston and New England who have welcomed me into their homes and their hearts with their stories of joy and tragedy. I've always done my best to tell their stories accurately and to tell them well. I have to give a quick shout out to one of my fellow inductees here, Dan Ray. Dan and I go back a long ways. Back in 1985, Dan and I and Amalia Beretta, another Hall of Famer, by the way, Dan for Channel 4, myself and Amalia for Channel 7, traveled to Germany for a story on the release of some American hostages. Well, when we got off the plane, Dan took a look and saw Amalia and I both, and he said, "What's this? Channel 7 tag teaming the story, 2 reporters? You know, I'm supposed to compete with that?" We all know how competitive Dan is. Well, Dan, I can tell you that I felt then, as I feel now, Channel 7 had to send 2 reporters because it took 2 of us to keep up with 1 of you. You never had anything to worry about. Okay, and finally, I would like to take a moment to mention one thing in my career that I'm especially proud of that really has not directly related to covering the news. And I'd like to preface it by saying that I've worked for 3 really terrific employers, Stanley Hubbard in Minneapolis, and here in Boston, David Mugar and Ed Anson. But one of the things that I am most proud of is playing a role, along with Dan Ray and others, in successfully getting the legislature of Massachusetts to outlaw no-compete clauses in contracts for broadcasters in Massachusetts, one of the few states to do that. And I guess I just feel that if there was ever any appropriate place to mention or acknowledge that, it would be here at the Massachusetts Broadcasters Hall of Fame. Thank you very much. It's been a great honor.
Just a quick note to your mom, Ella, CVS, CBS. So close, he could have been a pharmacist. Well, thank you. Try the veal. Ladies and gentlemen, our next recipient of this great honor produced a TV show that has gone down in history as one of the greats. In fact, it won a Murrow Award, not Edward R., but Irving P. And need I say more? I was a big fan, and you were all big fans. He sat across from Dana Hersey. Here he is, on your screen, Dan Berkery.
Okay, I give up. What are we doing? I give up. We're doing the Cabbage Patch? Well, once a month, at least during the summertime. We'll do it. Keep the 94 people working that we had for the show, the writers and the producers and the directors and...
You're right, but that wasn't enough. That was the problem.
83 Leo Birmingham Parkway, WSBK TV.
It took him 5 years, but he does know the address now.
But I still don't know the zip.
And here to introduce our guest and our new inductee, somebody everybody knows and appreciates, a great play-by-play announcer for ESPN's Monday Night Football, but we remember him fondly as a Red Sox announcer. Please welcome Sean McDonough.
Thank you for reading that just as I wrote it for you, Jordan. I really don't have to say anything about Dan Berkery. I think that video clip pretty much sums up everything you need to know about that Hall of Fame career. I am honored to be here today to present my dear friend Dan Berkery. It's also special for me to be here because it seems every one of the honorees is a friend, someone I've worked with before, or at least somebody I've admired. Jerry Remy, the Rem Dog, one of the great joys of my life was working with you for 9 years, and I know we're all so happy to see you here today and looking so well. I nicknamed Jerry the Rem Dog. I'm still waiting for my 10% of the millions of dollars worth of merchandise that he sold with that nickname over the years. I also wanted to echo what Jim Coppersmith said, express my condolences to the Martin family. Tom Martin, as Jim said, is one of the great men that any of us have ever had the pleasure of knowing, and no one is more deserving of this honor today than Tom. Congratulations to your family. We've been asked to keep our remarks to 2 minutes. Those of you who know me know I really can't say hello in 2 minutes, but I'm going to try to pick up the pace now and stick to that instruction. Dan Berkery's professional accomplishments are remarkable. I could go through many of them, but you have his bio in the program booklets at your table, and I hope you'll take a minute to read not only about Dan, but the others. When Dan was the president and general manager of WSBK TV from 1981 to 1994, Channel 38 really was a national powerhouse. We were a superstation on across the country and in Canada. Dan was also an important founder and early decision maker at Nesson, but as you saw, for most of us, what we might remember most is he was the witty star of Ask the Manager, answering that viewer mail from TV 38 loyalists who posed probing questions like, how come you don't have Hogan's Heroes on an hour earlier? It truly was riveting television and remains a cult classic, I'm told, on YouTube today. But I'm here to talk briefly about Dan Berkery, the man, because some of what I'm going to tell you may not know. To me, he has always been a Hall of Famer as a person. It's impossible for me in my limited time to tell you about the numerous ways that Dan Berkery has impacted my life. But I know my life would have been entirely different had Dan not taken a chance on an already balding 25-year-old when he made him the television voice of the Red Sox in 1988. I met Dan's requirement for the job, which was I was willing to work for nothing, and I saw Ken London, one of our great producers, John Wilson, and one of our former directors, and Ken reminded me that the old adage that we applied to Dan's leadership at Channel 38 in those days was, Channel 38 is a great place to work if your parents can afford to send you there. He still throws quarters around like manhole covers, but he gave me the chance to live my dream when many had their doubts. I know if it was not for Dan, I wouldn't have the chance to do the World Series 4 years later, and everything that's happened in my professional life is directly attributable to the faith that Dan had in me. What's more significant to me, more important to me, is the man that Dan is, the role that he's played in my life and the life of so many other people who had the extraordinary privilege of working for him at Channel 38. He's been a father figure to many of us, certainly to me. He's been like a brother to me, a trusted mentor, an advisor, a role model, and about as dear a friend as I could ever hope to have. Dan and Liz and their amazing 10 children welcomed me into their family and into their home on holidays and many other occasions over the years at a time in my life when it meant more to me than I could ever express. When you meet the incredible Berkery children, you understand how truly special Dan and Liz are. 10 kids, like the Martin family, every one of them a person of great character, outstanding students who attended schools like Harvard, Cornell, Georgetown, Boston College, the University of Virginia. Apparently none of them could get into Syracuse, but it gives... So many of them terrific athletes, many of them tremendous parents themselves. They have 24 grandchildren, the Berkerys, with a 25th on the way. Liz, you're a Hall of Fame mother and grandmother. And Dan today takes his rightful place in the Massachusetts Broadcasters Hall of Fame for his remarkable career as a television executive, but to many of us, for being as fine a man, as fine a person, and as wonderful a friend as any of us will ever have. So it is truly my great pleasure to present to you a Hall of Famer in so many ways, and now in the Massachusetts Broadcasters Hall of Fame, the great Dan Berkery.
Thank you, Sean. Well, first of all, let me thank Peter Brown and the members of the board of the Hall of Fame for this great honor. I can't tell you how appreciative I am to being here. I mean, the blood is running. I mean, it is so great to be around broadcasters. It's wonderful, absolutely wonderful. In addition to thanking the Hall of Fame board, I'd like to thank my wife, Liz, our daughter from Chicago, Liz is here. Daughter from Philadelphia, Maggie is here. A son from Westchester, Dan is here. It's going to be quick, don't worry. JP from New York City is here, and Eileen and Mark DeTora from Boston are here. So thank you for making the effort. I appreciate it. I have been very, very fortunate, as frankly all of you folks are, to be in this business. It's a business with incredibly good people. People who care, okay, people who have a sense of humor, and we're in a business that is plugged in to what's going on in the world. Witness the fact, the manifestation of that is what's happened in Houston, what's happened in Central America, what's happened in Puerto Rico. I mean, you folks and the organizations that you work for are distributing important information to all the people at home. You know, there's this theory that technology, you know, that's swallowing us up. my sense is that technology is very important, but nobody watches technology. You watch content, you watch programs, and as long as we continue to be informative and, when appropriate, entertaining, we're going to be around for a very, very long time. One of the great joys of this business, as I look out, and I heard it, Jim Coppersmith is a very dear friend of mine. But frankly, I'm tired of him getting all the applause all the time, okay? And I want to tell you, what I want to do is I'd like his wife, Jan, to stand up and say hello, because she runs the engine. Jan Coppersmith, where are you? I've had two great mentors in this business. One whom I can't say enough about is Joe Domino. If it weren't for Joe Domino, I wouldn't be in the position that we're in today. He trusted me, he promoted me, and I owe him a world of thanks. Another person who isn't here, who's a very, very close friend of mine, whom you all have to know, is Stewie Talba. One of the great people that God has put breath into. And I'm sorry that he isn't here. Is Billy Fine here? Billy Fine from CVB, is he here? He's in New York. Well, I remember Billy when he was running around town, schlepping his bag with his little avails in it, okay? And today, then he left and he went to Baltimore, came back, and is doing a great job at CVB. Mark Lund was our local sales manager at SBK. And I mean, Mark was a key contributor in our success. Frank Comerford, who's the Chief Revenue Officer for NBC in New York, was also part of the team. And these people contributed so much to our success, okay, that we can never thank them enough. Last but not least, I want to thank Sean for coming from the West Coast to here, and tomorrow flying back out west to do a game on Monday. I appreciate it. My love and affection for Sean there's not much I can say. I just think he's one of the great individuals whom I've ever been around in my life. I want to thank you for this honor. It's a humbling experience to receive an honor when you love what you're doing. It's incredibly humbling. I wish you all, every one of you in the business, I wish you all great success and unlimited joys, and thank you very much.
Congratulations to our inductees so far. Our next inductee is a friend. I've crossed paths with him many times. He does as many events as I do. And I want to thank Billy Costa, because among all the things he does, he hosts a show on Channel 2, correct? For the kids? Right, the quiz show for high school. Thanks to that, I got my GED. So I really appreciate it, Billy. Roll the tape. Billy Costa, ladies and gentlemen.
Hi everybody, and welcome into TV Diner. I'm Billy Costa. We're taking you to Salem, New Hampshire on the show this week. It's the only place I know of where you can get an elk burger in a donut. Yes. That's pretty cool right there.
This is Billy's traveling style.
Well, first of all, the satchel. It's Jack Spade.
I love it.
I never leave the house without Jack Spade.
Okay, so tell
By
us
the way,
about
it's a
it.
Christmas present from Matt Siegel.
You look great.
Thank you.
Tell everyone. Tell him. He looks great, right?
I can't hear you.
He does look great. And here to present the award is his partner in the mornings and another Hall of Famer, Matt Siegel.
If I knew they were going to show that video, I would have declined the opportunity to introduce Bill. Nevertheless, here I am. No joke. No joke. This is a real exciting time for me because I get to invite my best friend to join me in the Massachusetts Broadcasters Hall of Fame, Billy Costa. I think that for the committee, I'm guessing this was a no-brainer because they were kind enough to invite me to join some years ago, and I do like a third of what he does. He has 2 full-time jobs in broadcasting, one on radio and one on television. I don't know how many people can do that. I couldn't do it. When 10 o'clock comes along and my radio show ends, I go home, or the golf course. Billy goes to work. He goes to work with the beautiful Jenny Johnson on Dining Playbook. Billy told me to say, I'm sorry, Bill, I apologize, Emmy Award-winning Dining Playbook. And that's an absolutely full-time job. And when he's on hiatus, or the show is on hiatus, and he has some time off, he does another full-time television show, High School Quiz Show. Also, I did it again, I'm sorry. The Emmy Award-winning High School Quiz Show. He also does yet another radio show on the North Shore. He does a variety of public appearances, including Dancing with the Realtors, which might have been a misstep. But he never stops. He never stops. He does all kinds of galas. He does a tremendous amount of charity work. He works at night. He never stops working. And I just want to say to his 3 sons who are sitting at his table, who are all look like male models, which is just a little freaky. But your dad never stops working. And I just want to say to you 3 fellas, I think your father has a drug problem. I mean, realistically, how much money does your father need? Nevertheless, he's tireless worker. He's one of the most popular broadcasters in the city, and with good reason. And on a personal note, I couldn't do my radio show without him. I think it goes without saying. Anybody who's had a few spare moments to tune in would know that. And there's a thing that he does that is so amazing to me. I mean, I've been in broadcasting forever, like a lot of you folks here in the room. He does a newscast for me, and he also does an entertainment update, and he makes that shit up completely. I've never seen him look at a newspaper, pardon my language. I've never seen him look at a newspaper. He just comes in, and he sits in front of the microphone, and he makes stuff up. I mean, fascinating stuff. Like with that Kardashian girl, 20 years old. She's not really pregnant, is she? You made that up. I just was going to say a lot of stupid stuff, but he is my best friend, and when I went through some hard times, he was there for me. He's always there for me. I love him. Billy Costa.
Wow. Wow. Matt Siegel, everybody. I have to be honest with you, Matt, as you know, is already a member of the Broadcasters Hall of Fame. And in preparation for today's luncheon, Matt said, prepare yourself. You're going to be overwhelmed. And sure enough, I walked into the ballroom, actually the green room, and sure enough, I was overwhelmed. I cannot believe that I'm sharing a space in the hall and sharing a spot on stage today with the incredible honorees that are in this year's lineup. God, I walked into the ballroom, I saw Bob Lobel. I just got to sit next to Sean McDonough. I was watching him on Monday Night Football the other night. It's just amazing to me. You have to understand, I grew up a very poor kid in East Cambridge. I don't belong here at this podium. So I am so more than thrilled. I just want to say, years ago, I worked at Channel 4 on a handful of shows. Peter Brown was there at Channel 4 at the time. I got to watch and witness the incredible Dan Ray, when I tell you, still one of the most gifted broadcast journalists on the planet. And if I'm driving around in my car, Dan, at night, I'm listening to Nightside, and I'm not lying. And some night, I'm going to call in. Some night, I'm going to call in. And Dan, something else. You make me want to gain weight so that I can go on Awaken 180. I'm just saying, you look fabulous. And one other thing I really wanted to say, Jerry Remy, again, I grew up in East Cambridge. I've been a Red Sox fan my entire life, one of the original members of Red Sox Nation, and we are so lucky to have you, Jerry Remy. If you could stand up, Jerry, so everybody could give you the rightful round of applause. I can't even imagine. And now Jerry and I get to work together once in a while in the Red Sox broadcast booth, much to the dismay of Matt Siegel and other hardcore sports fans. But nevertheless, if I'm invited, I'm going in. And I've got to get this out, and I'll talk more about Jenny Johnson in a couple of minutes, but I can tell right now she's sitting there fuming because there was not a dining playbook clip in that video, and she's probably texting the Nesson people right now. But I want to welcome all the people from Nesson, and again, Jerry, it's a thrill to be able to occasionally work alongside you in the Red Sox broadcast. I want to start by honoring and acknowledging my own personal Hall of Fame, and that's my three sons, Chris, Alex, and Dylan. If you guys could stand up. I love getting awards. I love doing television. I love doing radio. But you guys are and always will be my biggest achievement in life. So thanks for coming in today for the luncheon, and I'm thrilled to see you guys. Now I got to talk about the morning show team, and I could get gushy here, but I don't know how, but one day in my life I was fortunate enough to land on the Maddie in the Morning Show. We had already, to some degree, become really good friends. I don't care what anybody said. This man is a genius. He's the absolute best there is in the business, hands down. And by the way, that's all due respect to any of the competition in the room. In fact, I'm sure most of you, if not all, would agree with me that Matt Siegel is the absolute king. I have learned so much working alongside you, sitting across from you. You have taught me how to be a broadcaster, a better broadcaster. You've taught me how to be a better friend, a better father, and all I can say, and I say this from the bottom of my heart, Matt Siegel, you gave me my life, and I thank you for it. And since we're talking about Matt and the morning show, I have to acknowledge the members of the team because it's such a magical group. Lisa Donovan is here. I get to sit alongside Lisa Donovan every day. She's one of the classiest, one of the most beautiful, one of the most fashionable people I know, and she and I have become dear friends. Lisa, stand up and take a bow. Let them know how cool you are. And I've got to say something else. through Matt and through the show and through the business, I've also had the added value, the extra bonus of becoming best friends with his beautiful wife, Mary Ann, who I love dearly. And an interesting sidebar, Mary Ann and Lisa were very good friends, and somehow, and I don't mind, they think of me as a girlfriend. But thank you for that. And also here from the Maddie Show, Gandhi is a fairly new producer. I had to say it, but she is a rising star and a future superstar. So Gandhi, thank you so much for joining the Maddie Show. Justin is one of our new producers, not only for the Maddie Show, but for the Kiss Top 30 Countdown, and the kid who screens the calls on the Maddie in the Morning Show. And the extended Kiss family that was kind enough to show up to lunch here today, although I know most of them and I know they're here for the free meal. But Alan Chartrand, thank you for your leadership and your generosity. And by the way, thank you for breakfast this morning, if that was in fact you that sent the breakfast. And Dylan Sprague, one of the most gifted program directors in the country. I am so lucky and privileged to work under your leadership. Thank you so much. And Joe Mazzi, we're fellow Canterburyans. We both grew up in East Cambridge, and we both really started our careers in broadcast at KISS 108 many, many years ago. Thank you for being here and for being there, Joe. And then there's Ian. Thank you very much, Ian. We've got management here from KISS and from iHeartRadio and Media. Ian, thank you for being here. And Tom McConnell flew in from somewhere. Now, Tom McConnell has such an important title and role with iHeartMedia, I can't even say it within 2 or 3 minutes. All I know is he flew in for the lunch today, and there was a small part of me that thought maybe he's here and he brought some sort of a bonus, a celebratory check. I haven't received it yet, but Tom, it's a thrill to see you here as well, and John. And you know what's very cool? A lot of the original KISS family is here, who were at KISS when I first started many, many years ago. John Madison and Matt Tilden, Kid David, who's now, of course, working with the competition. But thank you guys, and Beth, for everybody showing up here today. Now I want to talk about Jenny Johnson and Dining Playbook. By the way, that's Saturday mornings at 9. Sunday nights at 9 on Nesson. When Jenny first came to work with me, I thought, God, I'm going to teach her so much about the business. Well, as it turns out, Jenny, each and every day since she started, has done nothing but teach me about the business. She is a superstar. I wake up every morning praying that she's not going to call me on the phone and tell me the networks have picked her up and she's moving to New York or Chicago or Washington, D.C. But you're one of my best friends. You're like a sister. You're like a daughter. And you continue to teach me television each and every day. So thank you for being here. And I like to refer to her as my TV wife. And that's okay, because her brand new fiance and husband-to-be, Rob, is sitting here in the ballroom, so I'm not going to get in trouble for it. One of the other magical things about this industry and what it's done in my life, I talked about some of the friendships. It's almost my entire social circle came from this industry. I've got so many friends here. I have to thank my friends from WGBH and High School Quiz Show, Hillary and Andy and company and everybody, Sydney, everybody. I can't appreciate it enough. Q9 is about to start taping. And just a funny story about High School Quiz Show. On the eve, and Hillary, I don't even know if you realize this, on the eve of my very first episode of High School Quiz Show, they said, Billy, they want you to go on Emily Rooney's show to promote Quiz Show. And I said, oh, I love Emily Rooney. She's a good friend. She's really big. I said, okay. So I go on the Emily Rooney show, and the very first thing Emily says to me, she says, Billy, I love you. We're good friends and everything, but listen. And this was on the air. She says, you need to know that you are not the obvious choice to host this show. I mean, this is, in fact, WGBH, and boy, was I the odd person walking the halls at WGBH. But here we are, sliding into season 9 of High School Quiz Show, so thank you guys for being here. And a lot of my friendships and relationships have spawned from this industry, and that includes some of my clients who are here today. And Matt, I'm going to mention them, and you knew this was coming. Alan Gibley, a dear friend of mine. By the way, that's Gibley's Fine Men's Clothing, Route 114 in Danvers. The new fall lineup has arrived, and that includes Canada Goose coats for him and for her. So Alan bought an entire table. Thank you, Ghibli's family, for coming in. And at his table, another dear set of friends of mine, the Salem Waterfront Hotel in Salem, Massachusetts, Mike and Trish Rocket, dear friends, great clients, love the relationship, and thank you so much for being here. Thank you for allowing me to be in the industry, and again, congratulations to all the other honorees. Byron Barnett, you are amazing, and thank you, folks. We'll see you. Bye.
Congratulations, Billy. This is the Massachusetts Broadcasters Hall of Fame, and Massachusetts is a state that encompasses many cities, including cities to the west, and we are thrilled to now introduce to you on video our next inductee, Dave Madsen, who holds court on 3 television stations each weeknight. Let's roll the video.
Bay State teachers converge on Beacon Hill, sending Governor Weld an angry message. Good evening, I'm Dave Madsen.
And I'm Kathy Tobin.
Thank you very much, and I'm joined by Congressman Richard Neal of Springfield. Congressman Neal, the president's job tonight seemed to be to convince skeptics on 2 fronts.
The final shuttle flight is bittersweet for many here at the Kennedy Space Center, no more so than the astronauts who've flown on this shuttle over its 30 years.
Well, Chris, this is the crossroads of America most times, but this week it is Super Bowl Boulevard.
That's it. We'll update things at 11. First news tomorrow morning at 5. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.
And here to introduce Dave is a member of our board of directors, a great friend of mine from Curry College way back when, and the general manager and vice president of several of these TV stations, a whole mess of them. Here's John Hessline.
Thank you, Jordan. I'm honored today to introduce to you Dave Madsen for his induction into the Massachusetts Broadcasters Hall of Fame. I have absolutely no doubt that there are far more qualified broadcasters and colleagues of Dave who deserve this pleasure of presenting a Western Mass icon. Dave and I began working together just 2 years ago. However, in that short time, I've fallen under his spell. That makes me feel as though I've known him forever. And therein lies Dave's gift. It's Dave's professional affability, both on and off the air, that makes him truly one of a kind and loved in Western Mass. For 36 years, Dave Madsen has dedicated his career to the high mass journalism. He's guided Western Mass families through thousands of stories, both good and bad, and through it all, he's given each story clarity along with respect and fairness. Dave has been a part of every platform in the broadcast technology. Dave started in radio in WHMP in Northampton and on TV with WWLP, and for the past 25 years here on WGGB, better known now as Western Mass News. And you can watch him on your mobile screens everywhere with live stream newscasts and Facebook Live posts. No matter the platform, Dave quickly acclimates and his loyal audiences find him. The connection with Dave Madsen, though, runs way deeper in the community than just being on an evening broadcast. He and his family are woven into the fabric of Western Mass. Let me give you an example. At this year's Big E, or the Eastern States Exposition, a viewer visited Dave at our Big E broadcast studio. Like many others, this viewer told Dave that he was a big fan. But what came next, I think, truly surprised Dave. This gentleman worked at an Amherst grocery store, right next to the card shop that Dave's dad owned back in the late 50s. Now, Dave is always gracious with our viewers, but this was different. this viewer spoke of the pleasure of knowing Dave's dad for years, and now was meeting Dave for the very first time, was eager to enjoy a renewed friendship. Dave was beaming with pride as this viewer shared this family's memory. This story, like so many others, shows how important Dave's role and his family have played in Western Mass, which has added to his success as a local broadcaster. Now, speaking of family, I want to especially thank Dave's wife, Linda, and his entire family for sharing him with all of us. We don't take for granted the sacrifice that families make in order to support what is a lifestyle that is the TV news business. Now, running a TV station, one lives by the numbers. Numbers are important. And today I want to present some impressive Dave Mattson numbers. Dave has given us conservatively over 778,000 minutes, 12,960 hours, or 540 days of airtime over the course of his career, so far. Delivered with compassion, principle, and some sense of humor when we need it the most. Well, today we give back a minute or two as we congratulate together Dave Mattson and this prestigious Massachusetts Broadcasters Hall of Fame Award. Ladies and gentlemen, Dave Mattson.
John, thank you for nominating me to begin with, and my thanks to the Massachusetts Broadcasters Hall of Fame for bestowing this honor on me. I was overwhelmed driving here, but when I got in here and I saw all of you folks, the nominees this year, and congratulations to all of you, the honorees this year, and the past honorees, it was like, what am I doing here? But I'm happy and thrilled to be here. I have to share a true story with you that I really think is an indication that you know you've been around for a long time. My youngest son works in elder care, and he always says he has a place for us down in Florida, in Fort Myers. This is an honest-to-God true story. It happened this week. He said he heard this cranky old man out in the lobby. He said he was looking for a place for his wife who broke her leg. This Greg is the admissions director, so he went out and he started to talk to him, and in the conversation with him, he found out the man was from Massachusetts. And he said, well, where are you in Massachusetts? He said, well, I'm Western Mass. He says, nobody would know Western Massachusetts. And Greg said, well, yeah, I would. And he said, where in Western Massachusetts? He said, well, Chicopee, but you probably know Chicopee because that's where that big lottery winner came from. And he said, no, I lived in Southampton for many, many years. And he says, you may have seen my dad on television, Dave Mattson. And he said, well, that's not your father. Couldn't be your father. Greg went in and got a picture, brought the picture out and showed it to him. And all the guy could say is that old son of a bitch still on TV? Yes, I am. Well, the honor is certainly not something I would have even considered when I started in radio 47 years ago. I've been very fortunate to live and to work where I was born and raised and where my passion for news and radio and TV really began. I've worked at 4 stations in 47 years, WMAS, WHMP, Channel 22, and the last 26 years at what's now Western Mass News. I'm very lucky, and that is unusual in a business where people move on every couple of years. Now, let's face it, I'm not sure if I could have done my dog and pony show in any other market other than in Springfield, but you know, that's okay. Moving on has never been a priority. My wife Linda and I tried to make our lives and the lives of our 2 sons as normal as possible. With me in a business, and you all know this, that is anything but normal at times. It's worked, thanks to Linda, taking on the role of mom and dad at times, while I worked at night and emceed some events on weekends. It was like some days I was never home. And I know at times it wasn't easy. But she made it work. We made it work. And 2 weeks ago, we celebrated our 43rd anniversary. So, now some say based on the facts that I've worked nights for so long, she's really only had to put up with me for about 22 years. So Linda, thank you for your patience, your understanding, and your love. Linda's here with our son Chris and his beautiful wife Nicole, who've given us 2 great-grandchildren. Not great-grandchildren, grandchildren. I'm old, but I'm not that old. Our great son Greg in Fort Myers, where he'll marry his partner Carlos in a couple of weeks. There are many people I really need to thank who've played a role in my career in radio and TV. Art Cohen of WFCR, he was the news director back in 1970, who let me volunteer when there was no such thing as interns. Art's now WBZ, and he said I could share this story. I was about 2 weeks into volunteering there, and Art said, you know, maybe you should think about another line of work. I ignored him, and it's worked out okay. Don Yankee at WMAS, who gave me that first paying job for $2 an hour. My father thought I was out of my mind because I was making $4 an hour at data processing at UMass, which back then was big money. Joe Fennessy, my manager and mentor at WHMP. Tom LaMarche at WWLP, who saw something in me and hired me right out of radio and put me on television on the anchor desk. He told me that he and then he was, I think, a station manager at the time, Bill Pepin, thought about me on the beach. And I said, well, I'm honored that you did, but what frightened me is if you were on a beach with beautiful women all around, you were thinking about me. Keith Silver, a true journalist who instilled in me the value of I'd rather be right than first. I'm fortunate enough in my 38th year in TV to be working for a great company, Meredith, for managers who know the business and appreciate the value of news veterans. My thanks to news director Patience Ettrick and our station manager John Hessline for allowing me to do that. To be working side by side again with Beth Ward, not only my co-anchor, but a valued and trusted friend. And to be able to work with a true journalist like Ray Herschel. No one does it better, and no one is trusted more than Ray. And in April, Ray will celebrate 50 years with what has been WHYN, WGGB, and now Western Mass News. An entire career at one station. A remarkable accomplishment for one of the finest men I know. Ray, would you stand? 50 years. I'm a very lucky man, and I think for all of us, every day is a new day in TV news, always interesting. Every day is different, with always something new to learn, and I've never wanted to do anything else. If it all ended tomorrow, I'd have no regrets, whether it's been on the air or in the community or teaching at UMass. I hope in some way, shape, or form that I've made a difference. That said, it's been a great run. Nearly 48 years and counting, and it doesn't get any better than that. Again, my thanks for allowing me to be joining with all of you in the Mass Broadcasters Hall of Fame. Thank you.
I guess you could say the theme of today's luncheon, which is huge, is family. And there's the KISS family and the CVB family and, of course, the WBZ family, of which I'm a very, very happy member. And our next nominee, who is now an inductee today, is somebody I owe so much to. I owe him my windows, my Century Bank, my pillow. He tried to get me to take a diet plan, but look at me. Kill me. He's absolutely one of the sweetest and one of the hardest working professional broadcasters. Let's see a bit more of Dan Ray.
We have Governor Reagan on the line.
Yes, Dan, how are you?
Good. And then swung around over toward Post Office Square, the insurance companies, the areas of business. But when you get there, you'll always find a story.
You can look me in the eye and you can tell me.
I look you in the soul and tell you.
That you knew nothing about it?
Nothing at all.
But until a reporter for the CBS affiliate in Boston, named Dan Ray, began reporting on that evidence, no one was taking Victor Garrow very seriously.
You referred to the politics of pettiness. Does that reach across party lines?
Yes.
Could you give me an example of the Democratic pettiness?
Well, look, I was born at night, but not last night. Right.
Barack Obama generated rock star status here in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. That could be a big problem for Republicans in 2008. It also could be a big problem for another Democratic senator Hillary Clinton of New York. From Portsmouth, New Hampshire, Dan Ray, CBS 4 News.
He's tenacious when he believes in something, and from the beginning, Dan was convinced that a terrible wrong had been committed. Dan is recognized by the judge today. You're a big reason why the FBI was found guilty of a terrible cover-up.
This is Dan Ray on Nightside, and welcome to North America's Back Porch.
And here to present Dan Ray is our colleague and our good friend from WBZ Radio, Program Director Peter Casey.
One of the first things we learned about Dan Ray is that he's a huge baseball fan. For years on opening day, he'd bring his glove to Fenway Park and play catch with Mayor Menino in between his news hits on WBZ TV in the morning. He had a long and successful career on WBZ, 31 years, that's more than most, but he wasn't done. When WBZ's evening talk show host Paul Sullivan got sick, went through his own medical problems, we needed someone to fill in, we asked Dan. Dan had started at BZ as a weekend talk show host back in the 70s, and so he said, yeah, I'd be honored to fill in for Sully. That was about April of 2007. Dan's first guest was Paul Sullivan. One of the first few topics that Dan addressed was the symphony, very distinguished Boston Pops, where a fight broke out in the balcony at a concert one night. Dan said it was the first time that a hockey game broke out at Symphony Hall. What we learned by working with and listening to Dan was that he had a great grasp of issues, terrific recall for history, and he did his homework. I remember telling Dan that you could do this if you want to, but you need to know one thing. You need to know that being a talk show host is a lifestyle. It's not just a job. So in the fall of 2007, we gave him that job. You know, you could do no better than to have an advocate like Dan Ray on your side. You certainly want him on your side, but you don't want him to be on the opposite side if you're a public figure that has something to hide. He's what I call a solid citizen. Much of the good citizenship that's practiced by Dan is done without fanfare, without any public knowledge. You make a phone call for a listener, help somebody's kid get into school, maybe help you out with the veterinary bills if you couldn't afford to get your dog cared for. He's been the advocate for the underdog, and his work for Joe Salvati is well known and well documented, and I'm sure he'll have a mention of that when he gets up here. Being Dan Ray is not just a job. Being Dan Ray is a lifestyle as well. And as much of a baseball fan as Dan is, he's happy to counter-program against the Red Sox whenever they make it to the World Series, and they're up against him at night. And he's hoping they win on the field, not in the ratings. In many ways, Dan Ray on the radio every night is like the kid. He has the heart of that kid who's at his first baseball game. He just loves it. He still gets jazzed about the callers from all across the country who call into BZ because of our great signal. He's a huge baseball fan, and I'm proud to introduce a new Hall of Famer.
Peter, thank you very, very much. Honored to be here. I've worked for most of my career, all of my career at WBZ. Couldn't get a job anywhere else. But I've had two bosses named Peter. Peter Casey, who took a chance 10 years ago, a little bit longer, when Sully was sick. And also the president of the Broadcasters Hall of Fame, Peter Brown, who was my news director through much of the Joe Salvati case, as a matter of fact, back in the 1990s and into this century. I also want to acknowledge a couple of Marks. The general manager of WBZ Radio, Mark Canton, who is also a great guy to work for and always has your back. And on the television side, we have a great TV general manager, Mark Lund. I'm not coming back to TV, Mark, but if I ever thought about coming back to TV, it would be under your tutelage as a general manager, because Mark is a great guy as well. I have to congratulate all of the inductees today. It's a real honor for me to be inducted with folks like Jerry Remy and Byron Barnett, Billy Costa and Dave Madsen, all the folks, Dan Berkery, everyone who has been up here and who has yet to come up here, but specifically my colleague at WBZ, my former colleague Diane Stern, who is just a great radio broadcaster. I want to thank the members and the staff of the Mass Broadcasters Hall of Fame. Someone said to me, "You're thrilled to be getting in." Absolutely. You hang around long enough, then I have to give you something, I guess. I did work 31 years in television, last 5 days, but who was counting? Did put some people in prison. Stories that I did ended the freedom for a bunch of people, including perennial presidential candidate Lyndon LaRouche. He did 9 years in federal prison as a result of some stories that we did. He deserved it. Also had an opportunity with my great friend, Attorney Victor Garrow, to help free 4 innocent men, including Joe Salvati. It was an honor. Victor told me that he told me the story and told me it's the greatest miscarriage of justice in Massachusetts history. I thought he was tapioca, found out he was right, and at the end of the day, my last day on TV, they were awarded $116 million for families. They got all that money. As a matter of fact, it was Elena Kagan's last decision as Solicitor General before she was nominated to the U.S. Supreme Court not to seek certiorari in that case. I also want to thank, of course, everybody at WBZ Radio. We've got a great table at WBZ Radio over here. Specifically, Bill Flaherty, the executive producer of Nightside, Chris Siderick, who's really the executive producer of Nightside. And by the way, if you ever listen to me at night and you don't like what I have to say, listen to Chris on Sunday nights. You'll love what he has to say. Rob Brooks, everybody says they want to meet Rob Brooks because he's the guy that produces the program. Rob is here tonight as well. Thank you very much. Again, I've had such great colleagues at WBZ Radio and WBZ TV. I couldn't have worked with better people on both sides of the house. Sometimes we have disagreements, but it's really like a family. I also would just ask your indulgence to mention a few other folks. In the back of the room, I think, is a table, if I'm not mistaken, of my high school classmates at Boston Land School. Could you guys stand up? These are great guys. Unbeknownst to me, Paul Schlossberg put this together. They are wonderful guys. They're now mostly in their early 40s, well into their own careers. And if you ever get in trouble in Boston, we have 2 judges there. Judge Tom Horgan, who's a very close friend, and Judge Paul Yee. So if you ever get, thrown in the clink and you got to go in front of him, mention today. It won't hurt. I don't know you'll get off, but it won't hurt, okay? Someone once said that radio, we're really in the business of advertising, and of course television as well. And I just want to thank some of the advertisers who have supported this program, Nightside, for a long time. And again, with your indulgence, I'd like to introduce the folks from Century Bank. Marshall Sloan, who I've known for way too long. Marshall is now 91 and a half years young. He's the founder of Century Bank. If you need any money, Marshall's the guy to see, okay? But his son Barry, the president, will have to check you out to make sure. Barry, thank you very much. And the absolutely gorgeous Linda Sloan Kay, the executive vice president of Century Bank. I say, and I mean this seriously, if you don't love your bank, I have a bank you can love, and I love the Sloan family, and I love Century Bank. Now, I know there's a few of you in the audience who are getting close to 55, so if you're thinking about an active adult lifestyle community on the Cape, Southport, Ron and Donna Bonby, could you guys stand up and just get an acknowledgement here? Their son Frank. Let me tell you, it is a fabulous place. Southport in Mashpee. I'll be down there, I think, in the next week. We'll sell some condos, okay, Tori? Absolutely. Also, if any of you have aches or pains, Dr. Al Franke for prolotherapy. Prolotherapy allowed me to avoid some surgery and hope it'll continue. Al is a great guy. Al, thank you very much for your medical treatment. I really mean that. And for your sponsorship of the program. We have a great sales staff at WBZ. They help us make money. Rebecca Ivy, Chris Hill, Shelley Gallagher, Chris Bruce, and Jen Bousquet. Great people. Some of the money that we make, we try to put it into good causes. So we picked a charity for Nightside many years ago. Denise Eddy picked it for me, great friend, and it is the Shadow Fund. I don't know how many of you are familiar with it, but Professor Diane Sullivan. Diane, could you just stand up for a second? And Denise. If you're somebody who has a pet, cat, dog, or whatever, and you have trouble paying the vet bills, Shadow Fund. They will help you out if they can. I had WBZ Cures program. We had Diane Sullivan on, the first one. It was a year ago in June. She's so good. She got a $25,000 anonymous contribution for the Shadow Fund. Every penny, there's no administrative cost. Every penny goes for veterinary care. And she is a saint. Diane Sullivan, Saint Diane Sullivan. She's the dean, assistant dean at the Massachusetts School of Law. Well, how do we raise some money? Well, we have this guy over in Dorchester, Jack Doherty. Jack and his wife Ann are here. He runs a place called College Hype. He prints all of our T-shirts, our sweatshirts, our hats, our scarves, our coffee mugs. If you need any Nightside gear, just go to nightsidegear.com. All the proceeds go to the Shadow Fund, one of the most generous people that I know. I'm delighted also to acknowledge a couple of great guest hosts. I want them to be good, and I want them to be great, not that great. Former State Treasurer and the Receiver General Tim Cahill. Tim, stand up, take a bow. And if any of you are facing deportation, a great immigration attorney, Marisa DeFranco, and her husband Kai. She'll take care of you. And I think the best agent, as Peter Casey will agree, I'm sure Steve Fryer. Steve, where are you? Right there. Steve and I have known each other about 45, 50 years, something like that. A couple of kids. We have some great Nightside fans in the audience, people who have come tonight. The longest fan, Dan McDonald, Tampa police officer. Dan's job as a Tampa police officer, listens every night in Tampa, is to care for homeless people. Not to arrest them, but to keep them out of trouble. Just an extraordinary guy. And through him, we actually were able to do a kitten adoption from Florida to Rhode Island. It's amazing the power of television, there's no doubt. Patty Daniels and Joe Dunn, some great listeners and supporters of this program. And then, just on a serious note, I'd like to acknowledge Paul Sullivan's, the love of Paul Sullivan's life, Mary Jo Griffin. It was 10 years ago that we lost Paul. I have felt all along it's really not Nightside with Dan Ray, it's really Nightside, Dan Ray, continuing the Paul Sullivan legacy. Mary Jo, I so wish Paul Sullivan was here. He should be in the Hall of Fame. Thank you, Mary Jo. Mary Jo has kept Paul's legacy alive at the Paul Sullivan Institute at Middlesex Community College. Just a devoted, wonderful, wonderful woman. Finally and quickly, I want to acknowledge family and table mates, my children's godparents, Lee and Jim Johnson, their surrogate grandmother, Mary Nolan, who is I'm not going to say how young you are, Mary, don't worry about that, but she's very young. And also, I know we got Jerry Remy here tonight, the Rem dog, but we have another former Boston Red Sox infielder. For those of you who were fans of the Red Sox in the 1950s, one of my closest friends, the great Ted Lepsio. Ted Lepsio, stand up. You want to talk baseball? Meet Ted and me Fridays in Milton, and we're all set. And then, I just very quickly would like to acknowledge Kenny Young, Kenny's car. My brother Dave, former retired state police lieutenant. He never gave me any tips, any stories, and his lovely wife, Denise. And finally, I want to acknowledge my son, the general manager of the Pawtucket Red Sox, Dan Ray III. Daniel, you want free tickets to the Paw Sox? And last but not least, my lovely wife, Jean, my beautiful wife, Jean, who is a Hall of Fame mom, and she has allowed me, as many of the other folks have indicated, to, at the same time, do our jobs, but she also is the CFO of a fabulous company called The Math Works. Finally, I just want to say thank you very much, Gene. I accept this great honor on behalf of the people, all of these people, fans, friends, and family, with whom my career in television and radio would never have been possible. For the honor, thank you very much. I'm a baseball fan. It's not Cooperstown. It's Canton. It's the next best thing. Thank you all very much.
Hey, Matt, he's got the same drug dealer as Billy. What winds these guys up? Congratulations, Dan. Our next recipient is somebody that everybody is rooting for, because we root along with him for the Red Sox. Now we're rooting with him and for him, and he's absolutely here and looking great. So please pay attention to the screen. Number 2 from Somerset, Mass., Jerry Remy.
It is our first for the New England Sports Network, and my pleasure, of course, to have as my new partner, number 2, Jerry Remy.
This is going to be a good night.
This is already starting off badly.
Kevin Kennedy pulling no punches.
Out in that batter's box up there.
People often wonder how the Rem Dog tunes up for a big game. And as you can see, Jerry's very much...
And here to introduce number 2, Jerry Remy, Sean McGrail from Nesson.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So it's my pleasure to be here to talk about Jerry Remy. But as I was sitting out here, a Dan Berkery story came to mind. So I was hoping you would indulge me and let me tell it. Because it was probably in the mid-'80s. I was right out of school working for Nesson. Dan was bigger than life. He was the GM of TV 38. He was on the Nesson board of directors. And at the time, the Red Sox had rented out Symphony Hall for a big black tie event. So it was a big deal. So I was on the payphone over in the corner, and here came Dan down the stairway with all the other GMs in town, bigger than life. And he's yelling across the entire audience. He's yelling, "Sean, Sean!" I'm like, huh. Dan Berkery is recognizing me. He's calling me across the crowd. I'm on the payphone. The crowd kind of quiets down. And I'll never forget these words. And I just thought of it as I saw Dan tonight. He said, "Sean, are you calling your mother to tell her you'll be out late?" And everybody heard. It was a great day. But without Dan, there would be no Nesson. So I wanted to share the story. But as many of you already know, Jerry Remy is in his 30th year of broadcasting with the Red Sox and Nesson. As you saw in the film, after growing up here in Massachusetts, he spent the first 3 years of his career with the Angels, and then joined the Sox in '78 and played 7 years with the team, and now works alongside some of his teammates, Jim Rice and Dennis Eckersley. He joined Nesson in '88, the year of Morgan Magic, and has been in the booth ever since, sharing his love and passion for the Sox with fans across the country. Jerry's been part of some of the most memorable Red Sox moments. No-hitters by Lowe, Lester, Buchholz. Incredible come-from-behind victories like the 2004 ALCS against the Yankees that finally broke the curse, in addition to the '07 and the '13 World Championships. He was also inducted to the Red Sox Hall of Fame in 2006. And throughout it all, Jerry's been a constant companion and truly the voice of Red Sox Nation. He's endeared himself to fans, not only with his limitless baseball knowledge, but also with his incredible sense of humor. Obviously not his dance skills. And you know what? I think when you ask Red Sox fans universally, what is their favorite part of the broadcast? There's one very simple answer: Remy. So it's my pleasure to welcome, and I hope you will all give a warm round of applause to Jerry Remy for his induction into the Massachusetts Broadcasters Hall of Fame.
Thank you very much, Sean. I think I'm in the wrong room. I don't belong in here. There's got to be a room down the hall somewhere where the Remy party's going on instead of this. This is amazing to me. You know, for a kid that grew up in Fall River and got a chance to play Major League Baseball with the Boston Red Sox and the California Angels, and to end up in this career, which was never the formula. I always felt that when time passed and I was finished playing baseball, I would somehow stay in baseball as a coach or a manager. And then this job at Nesson became available, and somebody told me, why don't you throw your name in? You know, you're young, you're local, you're a fairly popular player. I said, okay, what the hell, throw my name in, we'll see what happens. I'm not going to get it anyway, I got no experience. And then I got the job. And I was scared to death. I had no idea what I was doing. And for the first 2 years, I would pray for rainouts because I hated myself. I mean, I could not stand myself on the air. It was horrible, but thank goodness I stayed with it because it was one of the best things that I've ever done. I'm so thankful to Nesson, obviously, for giving me the opportunity to get a beginning in this business and to stay with me through the 30 years. You know, there have been a lot of ups and downs, obviously, in my life, but they've always been consistently there behind me. I thank my wife, Phoebe, for 42 years. She's been my rock. She is the strongest person I know. I thank her so very much for being behind me for all this time. I thank the people, and there are so many people we work with daily who don't get the attention that they should get, and there are people behind the scenes. And fortunately for me today, a number of those people are here at the tables where I'm sitting, and past and present people that I've worked with in the past. And those are the people I love. That's one of the reasons I love going to work. It's not always the folks that are on camera that should get all the attention. It's the people, the camera guys, the audio guys, the directors, the producers. They put the shows together. They do the job, and their work goes unheralded, in my opinion. They spend long, long hours, and they try to make us look good. And in return, we try to make them look good, which brings us a good broadcast. My partners from the past, and one of them's here today, Sean McDonough. I mean, it's so great to see Sean. I honestly believe that he brought me to the forefront of my career. I think that he brought me out of my shell, and of course nicknamed me the Rem Dog, and it's kind of stuck since then. But I mean, he is a class act, and that's obvious now that he's with Monday Night Football. But he's always been, in my opinion, the very best that I've ever worked with. So Sean, it's so nice to see you. It was great. And for a kid from Fall River to be in this room today in front of all you people, it is absolutely an amazing feeling, and one I won't forget. I said last night in a broadcast, I said, this is probably the biggest deal that I've ever been through. I really mean that, because I never anticipated this in my life, never. But to be able to come here and be in front of you, so many great names that have been inducted today and, of course, in the past, and to be part of that family makes me feel very, very proud. So once again, thank you very much for allowing me into the Mass Broadcasting Hall of Fame. It's a day that I will never forget. Thank you.
And we'll be watching for you in the playoffs, Jerry. Thank you. Our next inductee is from the management side of things, one of the class acts of the business. And please address your attention to the screen as we present Peter Smythe.
We have an expression in my house of much is given, much is expected. And this is something my parents taught us from a very early age, to make sure that we were giving back to the community, that we were part of the community, and that we were working within the communities we lived. And it's something my father did throughout his life at Greater Media, but also in our house. And it's something that has always made me so proud of my parents. Thank you for allowing me to be involved in the journey, and I'm proud to be your son.
A proud husband, father, and grandfather to 6 grandchildren, he's been recognized by countless nonprofit organizations over the years throughout the Commonwealth for his commitment to the community, caring, compassionate, and committed.
And here to introduce Peter is one of the most talented morning guys ever and a fellow Hall of Famer, Lauren Owens.
Thank you, Jordan. Well, all of these amazing well, first of all, how are you? Is everybody good? It's great to see you today. All of these amazing stories give me a total feeling of being unbelievably inadequate. It's just, what great stories. Now I have the distinct pleasure of introducing somebody who really makes me feel inadequate, and I've known him for probably about 30 years now. His name is Peter Smythe, and I would assume that most of you in the room have dealt with, or know of, or know Peter personally. He's that kind of guy. He's a great guy. I've known Peter so long. He had dark hair, I had hair. That's a long time. You know, it's really, really hard to describe a relationship that you have with a person you've worked with for a long time from, for example, a contractual kind of situation. Peter and I have worked out contracts over the years many different times, and this is the kind of guy he is. When we had a contract, there were no agents involved, there were no attorneys involved. What was involved was a walk on a golf course with 18 holes of very bad golf, and a little discussion, and an agreement, and a handshake. That's trust. Whenever there's a problem any place in the community, the titans of the community have always come to Peter Smythe for help. People like Jack Connors. Anytime there's a problem, Peter, can you help us raise money? Can you help us raise awareness? And he's the first one to say, yep, count me in. And it all started for Peter, ironically, at WROR radio, back in the old days when it was 98.5. And Peter was a kid fresh out of Holy Cross. And I used to always say, Peter, did you get a college education or did you go to Holy Cross? And he never, ever thought that was funny. He's a man among men, a broadcaster among broadcasters. You can check out, you have it right there in the book. It's all about Peter. He's a philanthropist. He's a great guy. He's a wonderful human being. You couldn't have picked a better inductee. Ladies and gentlemen, Peter Smythe.
Wow, that's tough to top. If it wasn't for Lauren Owens, I probably wouldn't be standing here today. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the Mass Broadcasters Association. I'd like to congratulate my fellow inductees, and I'd like to thank all of you for being here today. This is an incredible, incredible experience. It's very humbling, and incredibly gratifying. I'd also like to welcome Caroline Beasley here today, the CEO of Beasley Broadcasting. I'd like to welcome you to Boston. It was the merger of two great families coming together, the Beasley family and the Borders family. And talking about the Borders family, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the incredible men and women I worked with at Greater Media, the incredible contributions they made to their communities, the entrepreneurial spirit that they had that sparked that company to become what it was. And I always used to talk about that a broadcast license was not a right, it was a privilege. And with that privilege came responsibility. And that responsibility be to our employees, to make sure that we never asked them to do anything that we wouldn't do, and that we were cognizant of what was going on in their families, that our community was foremost important to us, that we would continue to be live and local in the markets that we operated in, and we make sure that we serve the needs of the marketplace and the communities that we operated in. And I always believed that if we held those values to be true, the stockholder return would always be there. And I was very fortunate to work for Peter Bordas Sr., his brother John, both passed away, and Lee Bordas, and they instilled those traditions in me, and they still continue today under the Beasley ownership. So as somebody told me a long time ago, if you put the right people in the right places, you create magic. And there's magic in this room today. So I thank you on behalf of my family, my beautiful wife Kathy, my adorable son Colin, and I have 7 grandchildren, not 6. I don't want to leave one of them out. So it's great to be here. Congratulations to everybody who's in here today. I look at Jim Coppersmith and I think, wow, when I grow up I want to be just like you. Thank you all very much. It's great to be here.
Thank you, Peter. Well, it's alphabetically, but certainly not for any other reason, that our last honoree is getting ready in the bullpen. And I am also honored to have her as a colleague and a friend. And she is one of the premier newscasters ever in the Boston market. Ladies and gentlemen, please watch the screen and take a look at Diane Stern in action.
WBZ News Time 3:45, and now sports with Tom Cuddy, and the last of the series tonight.
No, in the middle game.
What? It's the middle game? Uh-oh, I'm not keeping tabs.
Wow.
Don't tell my baseball fanatic husband. And now some not-so-new news of my own. After 40 years in Boston radio, mostly at WBZ, it's time to hang up the headphones. Many thanks, of course, to our WBZ listeners, and that would be you. It's been a privilege.
Smile for me, my Diane.
Diane Stern, WBZ News Radio 1030.
And because today has been dubbed Family Day here, it's sort of a blend of families, we have the honor of inviting a family member up to introduce Diane. He's very close to her. He's her husband, Neil Ungerleider. Neil, come on up here and do your husbandly duties.
A lot of close friends have introduced the inductees today. I think I might be the closest. I began to fall in love with Diane long before we actually met. She was working for the radio station that had the Red Sox games, and she did the news before and after the games. And there was just something I was really drawn to. I was just really drawn to her. Now, I envisioned a tall woman with dark hair. And as you'll see when she stands up, that's not the case. But after 37 years of marriage, I can say that things have worked out wonderfully well. I am very lucky. While we both worked in broadcasting, I think that Diane asked me to introduce her today to tell you about a different side of her. For as much professionalism and perfection as she brought to her work at WBZ Radio, when her shift was over, she checked that fame thing, if she ever thought about it at all, and I don't think she did, at the studio door. And when she came home, she was and is a wonderful mother to our daughter. She's a woman who makes curtains for friends that she has literally had since kindergarten. And she's a volunteer who teaches English to immigrants. That is the Diane Stern that I know. But we're here today to honor Diane for her professional achievements. Over a 40-year career with her steady presence, she guided listeners through natural disasters, unimaginable sorrow, and fortunately, unbridled joy. As a former colleague wrote on Facebook this morning, Diane's a rare combination of journalistic instincts and real-deal empathy for newsmakers and colleagues alike. She's the real deal. That leads me to another part of the reason I think we're honoring Diane today. To me, it is Diane as a role model. When she began in Boston radio in the 1970s, you could count on one hand, perhaps even 2 or 3 fingers, the number of women doing news on the radio in Boston. And in the less enlightened decades of the 1970s and 1980s, that wasn't always easy. But she persisted, and she created a path for others to follow. I can't tell you how many times over the years that younger women have come up to me and said, because of what she did, I realized that my dreams were possible. And for that, I honor my wonderful and very talented wife.
Are you ready to take a trip back in time? Circa 1955, 56. Let me prepare this for you guys. Dateline, Marblehead, Massachusetts.
Hello, everybody. How are you today? Good. I'm going to tell you a story. Not a scary one, though. Well, once upon a time, there was this little girl.
That's enough out of you. Okay. So 60 years later, and virtually nothing has changed. Still showing off and grabbing the mic. So let me tell you a story. And without the lisp. I had my car in the shop the other day. It was an indicator light went off or something, so I just wanted to check it out. And the customer service rep came up and said, "Name, please." And I said, "Stern." First name, Diane. And his head jerked up. "The one on the radio?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, but I'm retired." He said, "I know. I cried." And I certainly was not prepared for that. But you know, that comment was not about me, really, maybe just a little bit. But it was about all of us broadcasters and the impact we have on people, and I don't think we realize this or appreciate it, really, as often as we should. When you think about it, we're in the bathroom with them, our listeners. We're in the bedroom with them. We're around the kitchen table. We're out in the garden. We're on a run, sometimes at work, and sometimes we're with our listeners, and actually a lot of times in the car, where children are listening and their language is still developing, where immigrants are listening and their language skills are developing. They are trying their hardest to make it in this wild and wonderful country of ours, and they want to nail the language, and they think because we're on radio and television or on the web or something that we speak the Queen's English. So we have to get it right. Byron Barnett, just as you said, we have to get it right. And I think that it boils down to actually several factors. I'm just going to point out maybe 4 of them. Facts, and I'm not saying alternative facts, I'm saying facts. And the importance of checking your copy and triple checking it and checking it again. You don't want to make this mistake that I made at the old WEEI, CBS Radio, 44th floor of the Prudential Tower. I effectively killed off a shooting victim who was very much alive. The engineer behind the glass, and of course this is the day when engineers controlled everything. We had a microphone switch as anchors, but that's all we had. We didn't have the control over what we say like we do now. We do everything. My engineer is gesticulating wildly behind the glass. He's not dead. So I had to go back on the air and revive this poor shooting victim, who was indeed very much alive, and eat a very large slice of humble pie. It's never a good experience. The importance of checking and double-checking your copy. Grammar, yes, it still matters. And remember, it's none of them was, not none of them were. Just saying. Gender neutrality. Okay. How many times do you hear the female pilot, the female driver? Folks, women make up more than 50% of the population. Why wouldn't it be a woman? Okay? Boy, that felt good. Okay. Tone. You have to set the right tone. And if you can hit that sweet spot, more power to you, because it takes time to get a balance. You can be compelling without being overly dramatic. You can be compassionate, I think, without being saccharine. And you can be authoritative without sounding like a total stiff. But this is how you do it, or this is how I tried to do it. I listened to a broadcaster I really admired. Rita Sands, CBS News, New York. I don't know if that name rings a bell, but she was wonderful. She had the diction, she had the pipes, she had the intelligence, the warmth. She was wonderful. She was a great role model, and that was very helpful to me through the years. So obviously, these are tips for new broadcasters, because you veterans, you don't need to listen to this. You just play with your iPhones or something. You can turn aside, that's fine. Another tip for newbies, find yourself a newsroom filled with collaborative, helpful, understanding people. They're sitting right here, my WBZ colleagues and my bosses too. Thanks for the understanding over the years to my bosses, Mark Hannon and Peter Casey, and Bill Flaherty and John McClain. They know that broadcasters are people, they have personal lives, and sometimes they just can't be at work, and I really appreciate that. Thank you to my friends at WBZ. You know, right to the day that I retired, which was last November, I would become so nervous before that first newscast of the day, and we're talking 40 years. That time, right before a newscast, I was a nervous wreck. And if I hadn't finished writing something, or if I hadn't finished editing tape, my colleagues would just jump in and finish it for me, sometimes without asking. So thank you for saving my butt. And, you know, I think we pulled it off. The listeners were none the wiser. So thank you so much. I would also like, Neil, you may want to cover your ears for this. No? Oh, okay. All right. I would like to thank my ex-boyfriend, who encouraged me, convinced me to stick with my first radio job, which was selling airtime for a 500-watt, not 50,000, 500-watt radio station that no one in the community had heard of, and because the signal was so weak, no one had ever heard. So thanks to him. I would also like to thank my hysterically funny brother and brother-in-law, my always thoughtful sister, and my in-laws, who made it possible for me to go back to work because they provided quality, loving family daycare for our beautiful daughter, Sarah Ungerleiter. Sarah, I'm going to ask you to stand up. I know you're going to hate me for asking you, but Neil has already made reference to my friends from kindergarten and nursery school. Thank you so much for being here. Your love and loyalty through the years is just amazing. Back to that little girl in daycare. She's now a beautiful woman, as you can see. Sarah, you are the coolest millennial I know. I am so proud of you. You are my biggest accomplishment. The career was great, it was fine, but you really, I mean, I'm just so proud of you, and I love you so much. And you know, she inspires her parents to be more fit and more mentally alert and more, you know, thinking outside the box. Anyway, you get the picture, I think. Okay, I'm going to wrap up, and Peter Brown, please do not cue the orchestra, okay? Okay, I'm wrapping up, I would be remiss if I did not mention my longtime agent, who for 40 years has really channeled me in the right direction. That was huge. I'd also like to thank my life coach through the years. That's been so helpful. I do want to thank my financial advisor. I'd also like to thank my housekeeper. And, oh, a shout out to my cook. My husband, Neil Ungerleider. He does all of those things. I do nothing except go outside and dig in my garden. I mean, he affords me all that time, and not to mention love and your wisdom. And Neil is a tremendous broadcaster in his own right, and he is a master of digital media. In fact, I was told today by Jim Coppersmith that he refers to Neil as the digital devil. So, okay. Anyway, I'm just so lucky to have you. All right. So many thanks to the Mass broadcasters for honoring me, and I am expressing the same feelings that my fellow honorees are saying too. I'm just so amazed that I'm in this group of wonderful people and talented people. And my fellow inductees, emphasis on fellow, male inductees. So much for gender neutrality. But I thank you all. Congratulations to my fellow inductees, to past inductees, and I'm thinking of my friends, Don Batting, Gabe Vernon, Jim Boyd, sitting right here with a timer, which is a little intimidating. And finally, thanks to all of you for indulging me and listening as I tell my story. Thank you.
And just to put a wrap on this wonderful day, thanks to the Subaru dealers, thanks, of course, to the Foxborough cable system guys who have been amazing, to Emerson College, Massasoit, to the board, and everyone who volunteered. This was a great event. Wouldn't you all agree? You want to come back and do it again next year? Get those nominations in. We'll see you later. Thank you. Just a reminder to the winners or the inductees, the plaques are outside, just outside the hallway for you to pick up on your way out. Thank you.